Welcome. It's David Lawrence from Grant McGregor and Doug Davey. You would have had to be on the backside of the moon if you've not had any news about artificial intelligence. The technology sector love to home in on one particular topic and do it to death. So all your social media feeds, all the news is around artificial intelligence. But what does that actually mean to a typical organization? I'm not sure that's been expressed or detailed well enough or put into English. So today our goal is to try and bring artificial intelligence to life, but more importantly, using the tool set from Microsoft, which is called Microsoft Copilot, and try and explain how Microsoft Copilot can make a difference to your day and actually help you, which I think is critical to artificial intelligence. So welcome, Doug.
Thanks, Dave. Nice to be here.
So let's just start off with just a brief overview about Microsoft Copilot and kind of how it fits into the artificial intelligence landscape.
Yeah, Microsoft Copilot. So Microsoft Copilot is AI or artificial intelligence, as you mentioned. It's similar to other products that people might have used, like ChatGPT. That's a very common one. And really, what they are on the face of them is a way to interface with the computer in a more natural way and receive responses which are based on learning rather than just static responses. So you would talk to these sorts of tools through chatting with them, maybe through voice with them, and they would use their vast knowledge of the internet, of the world's information, to craft you tailored responses, which provide you with information. So that's a very basic function of them. Microsoft Copilot takes it a step further in that it integrates with all of your existing Microsoft products. So tools like ChatGPT are really just a chat engine that you can talk to and get responses out of. But Microsoft Copilot works in Teams, in Word, in Outlook, in PowerPoint, in all of these apps, in Azure, in Power Apps, and allows you to interface directly with these applications and your business data. So it takes it to another level and it is much more powerful from a business perspective than just one of these sort of basic chat tools that you can talk to.
And that's well put. I think what you were highlighting is, when people hear the word AI and then we're talking about Microsoft Copilot, it's, if you think of it, and let's just a very basic term, so artificial intelligence is a very large computer, some overly simplified, but a very large computer stored somewhere in the world. And that has the intelligence to scrape the internet for vast amount of information and self-learn. So the artificial intelligence part. So in our cases, we're talking about Microsoft created an application called Microsoft Copilot. And a very basic analogy is that application allows you to interact with that supercomputer in effect. But in a way, as you described, that it's not that much different from using Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint. It's the application, the user interface, the application interface is very familiar.
So Microsoft claims that Copilot is a time saver, increases productivity. How much of this do you think is just marketing hype, and how much of it do you think is an actual reality?
Well, a lot of the time, I think with all technology, there's a lot of big organizations, including Microsoft, that creates that marketing hype. That's a good question. I think there's probably two real good examples that I have on that. Is number one, we have a customer in the finance sector, an investment house. They have conversations all the time with their customers. And then one example in particular, this person had been communicating to their customers on Teams. And then after that Teams chat about the portfolio, they were spending an hour each time writing down how that meeting went, so the minutes, the objectives, and then the actions. With Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, that now does that whole process within a couple of minutes. And the great thing is, with Copilot, that person can add their tone. So it is as if they've written the minutes of that meeting. And that saved them, I think, 30 hours a month, which is going to be a great result. And actually, the second example is closer to home. It's one of our own people here. I was having a conversation with them, and they're going on holiday next week. So this was last week, and they've got Microsoft Copilot, and they were saying, "This is amazing." When I logged into my Outlook and I used Copilot, it suggested and noticed that he was going on holiday, and it suggested, shall I clean up your meetings that you're not going to be part of? Shall I check the urgent emails that you need to respond to? Shall I put in other requests for calendar invites? And it just changed the whole productivity or the anxiety of preparing to go on holiday. Actually, Copilot removed all of that for them. I think that's a really good use case, or two good use cases of artificial intelligence and Microsoft Copilot.
That's really powerful and good examples there.
So AI-powered assistants have been around for a while. So you have ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Amazon's one as well. How does Microsoft's AI or Copilot differ from what else is out there?
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of AI tools available. Some of them are better than others. Some of them do fall into the marketing hype category and really aren't AI tools at all. The key differentiator between the Microsoft Copilot product and all the other ones is that it respects your existing organization's security.
Right.
So it's a Microsoft product. If you're using Microsoft, SharePoint, Intune, all these sorts of things, it will know about that, and it will respect the boundaries of the security that you've put in place. Also, because it's a Microsoft product, if you're using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any of the other Microsoft applications, it's integrated into those. So it's not a separate product like ChatGPT, which is on a website. If you want to talk to Copilot, it's in Teams. If you want to use it in a Microsoft product, it's just a plugin inside the tool. So there's the integration, and then there's also the security. One other important thing to mention is that Copilot doesn't teach itself using your data.
Okay.
So any information that you type into some of these other tools, it will use that information to train itself. So in effect, someone else using that tool could get your information by asking the right questions, because it's in the knowledge of the large language model, as it's called. Copilot doesn't do that. Copilot teaches itself separately on publicly available data that Microsoft are allowed to use. And your information that you type into Copilot or that it knows about is kept inside your 365 tenancy, which makes it not available to other people.
That's a really good observation and point. And I think for organizations that are looking at artificial intelligence and possibly something like Microsoft Copilot, those anxieties of commercially sensitive information or just highly sensitive information, making sure that's, and you're saying that's ring fenced in the organization or in their 365 tenancy, that ecosystem, but still it's learning externally from that. So you're getting best of both worlds, getting that technology and the use of that technology, but maintaining that integrity of your organizational data.
Yeah. So it will respect things like SharePoint permissions. So if you have a sensitive folder for HR or finance or something, as long as that is already restricted to the appropriate people in the organization, then if you were to ask Copilot about the contents of that folder, it will say, sorry, you don't have access to this.
And that's very good. And again, as we said earlier, the great thing about Copilot and how it differentiates itself is it's a very familiar application. It's a Microsoft application. So if you're familiar with Word, Excel, Outlook, the Copilot isn't that much different. And as you said, it integrates with all those other Microsoft products. So there is some learning, of course, like with any Microsoft application, to get the best out of it. Of course, you need to be efficient, proficient, but that's not a large required amount of time for that skill set. You can kind of hit the ground running with Copilot.
Yeah, there's not a lot of training which is needed for using Copilot. There is training available, and that will help you get the best out of it, mostly around how to craft the right prompts to get the right responses out of it and things. But in terms of actually using it in the Microsoft products that you're familiar with, as you say, it's the same interface. So if you're used to using Teams and Word and Outlook and things, it's just another button in those tools.
Great. So it's familiar, which is important, secure, and it's going to protect the information that goes into it. It's not going to be leaked.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Doug. How do you see Microsoft Copilot changing the way organizations work, Doug?
I think we're already seeing Copilot changing the way organizations work, and at a base level, it's freeing up people's time to work on things that are more important, more interesting, more exciting, more creative. Copilot can do the mundane. It can assess a large document and summarize it for you, which previously you would have had to read through for a few hours. So it takes away the need to do these sort of mundane, day-to-day, low-level tasks. But then on the creative tasks, the more complex tasks, as we said earlier, it's more of a personal assistant. So you can ask it for help on what you're doing. So if you're doing something creative, you need some images for that. You can quickly say to Copilot, I need an image of whatever you want. It will generate that for you and you can put it in. So it makes you faster, more efficient, and just removes the things that people don't want to do, really, so they can focus on the things they do want to do.
And it's interesting, again, our industry or technology in itself always, it tends, I think, to some degree to reinvent itself. And what we're talking about isn't in reality something new, because the invention of accounting software, so Sage, Xero, Pegasus, all these account systems have been in place. Before that, it was lots of manual paper books or lots of spreadsheets. And again, those accounting systems have removed the need to do mundane reconciliations or mundane inputs. And that's helped a financial person or financial department focus on higher value productivity tasks. And what you're saying is Microsoft Copilot isn't really that much different. It's allowing the individual to leave some of the mundane, onerous tasks to Copilot, and they can focus on the higher value costs as well, high value cost benefits to the organization.
It's a new way of interacting with your computer and with IT and with your systems. It's not so much a new, there's not anything new here. It's just allowing you to do what you can do already more efficiently and faster and better and things. So how we interact with a computer is changing. For a long time, mouse, keyboard, sitting there typing, search engines, typing things into Word, all that sort of stuff. But it won't be too long until that changes completely. You could be sitting in front of your computer just talking to it. Why do you need to use a mouse and keyboard when you can just talk to the computer and say, I need you to generate me a PowerPoint, and it just does it for you.
That's interesting. That's exciting as well, if not a little outdated. With all things Microsoft Copilot and AI, should we talk about some real life examples of how organizations have successfully integrated Copilot into their organization?
Many organizations have started using Copilot through Teams meetings. That's a, a starting point that a lot of people seem to be finding value in. You mentioned a bit earlier about the time saving from taking notes from meetings. So Copilot can be used during calls and meetings to take notes, generate action points, summarize the meeting, and assign dates and priorities and all these sorts of things. So people who've historically transcribed calls, transcribed meetings, taken notes, passed it to a PA to do that for them, uh, saves all that time. It can be done instantly for you. Um, some other departments or areas of businesses that are benefiting is marketing in terms of content creation. So PowerPoint creation, blogs, social media, image generation, all these sorts of things would previously have taken time to research and learn and type out. Using a third party to make images for you. It saves all that time for marketing as well. They can generate content very fast. Finance departments are benefiting from it as well. Copilot in Excel. Excel in itself can be a complicated tool, formulas and VLOOKUPs and all these sorts of things. Copilot removes all of that because you have your data in Excel and you say, I need a VLOOKUP for this, or what's the formula for that? And it will just do it for you. So all of that previous learning, which you might have needed to be an Excel expert, it removes that time requirement to learn it, and then also the time requirement to implement it into your spreadsheet. It will just do it for you.
And we're seeing that certainly through our customer base that not all, but a number of customers are using Microsoft Copilot for those efficiency and productivity gains. But I think before you dip your toes in with AI or and particularly Microsoft Copilot, we talked earlier about the foundations or the security aspect that you've got to get right. So if you are thinking, if you're an organization thinking about Microsoft Copilot, is there a couple of things just to get right? I think certainly it needs to be, strategy can be a big word, but certainly communicated some sort of policy. And a policy could be a paragraph of how you use, or the organization is looking to use uh, Microsoft Copilot or AI. That's really important. Well, what else would you add to that list?
Organizations that are looking to use Copilot, they first need to take a step back and look at their own data security and IT security. The Copilot isn't doing anything that your users can't already do on your system.
Right, with the right permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have holes in your security already, then Copilot will just give you information based on those holes. So if you have badly structured SharePoint permissions, if you don't have data loss prevention or Intune or any of these sorts of things, then just like anything, a user can access a file in a folder that they shouldn't do, and Copilot will do the same thing. So that's not a flaw or a fault of Copilot. That's, you need to take a step back and look at your security that's in place to begin with before thinking about putting Copilot in. If you're confident in your security and your access permissions, then Copilot can be very easily implemented, and people can start using it with really not much worry at all.
And you're saying Copilot is just an extension of, say, me, what my permissions are in the Microsoft ecosystem. Copilot is that extension. It will have the same permissions. It's not suddenly going to say, actually, I've got the permission level of Doug Davey.
No,
You know,
it respects the user that the license is assigned to.
yeah,
So if you have, as a user, let's say, use an example, if there's a folder in a finance and it has all the payroll numbers and things like that, and all the salaries and everything, if your SharePoint permissions allow people to view that incorrectly, then Copilot will also allow them to view it incorrectly. But again, that's not Copilot's fault. That is the SharePoint permissions that need to be corrected.
and the opposite is true, where if you've got those foundations, compliance and security in place, the great thing about Microsoft Copilot is it can find deep deep bits of information that you might struggle to, that's consistent with the prompt that you're asking for, and then or to get that information and present it back into whatever you've asked it to do.
Yeah, so I use Copilot all the time to find documents that are in SharePoint somewhere that I don't know where they are. So, policy documents and asset registers and all these sorts of things. So rather than hunting through a file system for them, I just say to Copilot, where's our asset register? And it will just tell me where it is because I have access to it.
Great. Thanks, Doug. So you're an organization, you're thinking about Microsoft Copilot, maybe a little bit anxious of adopting this technology. What are some of the challenges that a typical organization faces?
I think some of the challenges I've seen with users and using Copilot is that they're not fully aware of all of its capabilities and all the places that it can live in, especially if they've come from something like ChatGPT, where it's really just one interface that you can talk to. Copilot exists in the complete Microsoft ecosystem. So Copilot's in Excel, Copilot's in Azure, it's in Teams. So interacting with it, there's not just one place to do that. And what I have seen some people do is maybe they're in Word and they're trying to get Copilot to do something, and it's saying, well, it's not doing what I want. And it's like, well, actually, you should be talking to it in Teams, which is the main interface for Copilot. Copilot in Word is only designed to do tasks that Word can do.
Okay.
So there's a few different places you can interact with it, and they have specific functions. Some other challenges I see is around getting the best out of it, or prompt crafting. And I think for many years now, people have been used to interacting with Google or search engines and typing in what they're looking for in a specific way that will yield the results. Copilot is not a search engine. You can talk to it like a human. So you can ask it a question and it will give you an answer, but you can push it a bit further. You can ask it to clarify or change the way it's responded or provide more information.
Right.
You can even disagree with it and argue with it and tell it why you think the information it's provided is not quite what you were looking for. So it's about changing our approach to using these systems, not treating it just like another search engine, and actually crafting your prompts to get the best out of it.
That's interesting. And I guess that's why they're called prompts. As you said, in a search engine, it's quite transactional.
Yeah.
I think the way you're describing Microsoft Copilot in the right Microsoft application, it's very transformational. It is transformational. I love the way you said you can actually argue with it as well. I've got this vision of you debating and saying, no, it's wrong. But that's a good point, actually. You really shouldn't take anything verbatim back from something like Microsoft Copilot and just instantly think that is fact. That just goes back to good personal responsibilities, just to double check things.
Yeah, you should always double check what's coming out of AI. It is obviously learning based on all the information that's on the internet. And as we all know, the information on the internet is not always completely true and accurate. So yeah, you do have to just double check it.
So you're an organization thinking about Copilot. You've taken that first step. How easy is it for an average person or a person in an organization to go, yeah, I feel ready for Microsoft Copilot? How easy then is it to take that next step?
I think as long as the organization has done what they need first, as we've talked about in terms of ensuring their security is correct, and that they have their AI policies and procedures in place to say to the users, this is how you should use AI and how you should not use AI. From a user's perspective, it's very easy. Copilot, you buy a license, you assign it to the user. It takes sort of 24 hours for that license to become active, and the user will then see it pop up in Teams and Word and all these sorts of things. So they can pretty much start using it straight away. Copilot does have a learning time, so it starts to learn the user. So over the next sort of week or 2 weeks or so, the more you use it, the more you interact with it, it will learn the user's common files that it accesses, the way that you talk, the sorts of responses that you would expect back. So it only gets better over time. So yeah, very easy to start using. You can use it almost immediately, and it will only get better the longer you use it.
It's funny when I was listening to you there, I know one of our colleagues has named their Microsoft Copilot, which I find fascinating. But the way you've described it, Doug, is it's a relationship, not a human relationship, but it is a relationship. So the more you use Microsoft Copilot, the more you interact with it, the more that you engage with it. And if you want to give it a name, that's fine. But that's like all good relationships, it will get better over time.
Yeah. Which is, we have been asked by people if they bought a Copilot license, is it possible to move that license between different users so they can try it out, or maybe, it's not working for this person, so I want to use it on somebody else. And while you can do that, it does kind of invalidate the personal learning side of Copilot. So if you're moving it around every couple of days, it's never getting that chance to learn about the person it's assigned to and the way they work. So yeah, leaving it associated with that user will give that user a better experience.
I think just to add finally in this point, I think you're saying the investment, isn't it? It's the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. It's the investment. So we talked about a bit of the relationship, but the investment in your time with the technology. Don't expect miracles on day 1 or day 7, but expect some good added value thereafter. But it takes the person, the human, to interact with it, to have that relationship, that investment, and they will then see the return on the investment and the value back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think some of the anxieties, Doug, when we talk about AI and Microsoft Copilot, is you hear some of these horrendous stories that people have used other AI technologies, and some of the corporate information, the very sensitive human information, is now on the internet, and that I think causes a lot of people, a lot of business owners, directors, managers, anxiety. Like, oh, okay, well, this is some of the concerns. How does Microsoft Copilot address some of these security or privacy risks?
I think from an organization perspective, a good starting point is to have an AI policy. You should be, educating and advising your staff on how best to use AI and which AI tools to use, because they're not all the same. As we've talked a little bit about, some of the publicly available ones will use the information that you put into them to teach themselves, and then that becomes public knowledge.
Right.
Copilot works with inside your existing Microsoft ecosystem, so it's associated with your tenancy, which means that the information that you type into it remains inside your Microsoft tenancy, and isn't used to train the large language model that sits behind it, because Microsoft trained that separately on publicly available information. Copilot respects your existing security that you have in place. So security groups on, SharePoint and Azure resources and Teams channels, it respects those permissions, as well as the ability to access it. Intune conditional access will prevent access to Copilot from unauthorized devices. Information security labels and data loss prevention. Copilot respects that as well, so it knows what they are. So if you've labeled documents as confidential or restricted or personal, and that has security controls alongside it, then Copilot will respect that as well.
Okay.
So it really is a case of making sure your IT security is correct first, and then putting Copilot in, because otherwise Copilot will have the same access as anybody else in an environment with incorrectly configured security.
I think you highlighted some good points there. And I think of it as, good foundation, good technology foundation. Definitely, as you said, good security hygiene. We've talked about that in other episodes. Security hygiene's great. Otherwise, putting any AI tool in, including Microsoft Copilot, it's going to be an unruly child. You just need that framework, and it's not a onerous or particularly difficult challenge to get to that place. It's good security hygiene, good permissions, uh, and it's respecting the boundaries of the Microsoft 365 tenancy, the organization's ecosystem.
Yeah, and these are all things that we assist our managed service customers with and recommend to them. So uh, things like Microsoft Intune to secure your devices, and proper SharePoint permissions and structure is something that we help with and recommend. So for our existing customers, implementing Copilot is fairly straightforward because they're confident in what's in place and that Copilot won't expose any information that it shouldn't do.
And some of the other anxieties of AI is, well, I think predominantly one of the concerns is it going to replace uh, my job, human jobs, people's jobs? Uh, I don't think we see it that way. I mean, I see it as more of a supplement, or more of a, I was going to say an AI assistant, which is so corny, but it is that assistant. But shouldn't people be worried about their jobs being replaced with AI?
Yeah, I mean, Copilot is, yeah, as you say, it's a supplement, it's a personal assistant, it's an addition to make your life easier. So I think people shouldn't be worried about being directly replaced by AI. It's there to make your job easier to do and allow you to focus on more important things. I do think, in a general sense, not specifically to Copilot, that people need to get onto the right side of AI. So not try and avoid AI and hope it's not going to happen. You need to be using AI and learning about it, and it will become just a natural part of working, in the same way as many other things have. Probably 20 or 30 years ago, hardly anybody knew how to use Outlook, but now everybody knows how to use Outlook, and Copilot will just become the next thing that everybody needs to know how to use, incorporates into their day to day. And unfortunately, if you're not on the right side of that, you'll be left behind as you would be in any other technology.
I say that is interesting. I mean, we've in my lifetime, I'm sure in yours, there's been those digital transformations. Probably the largest one I remember would be the Apple Mac and Windows. They were very different from the dumb terminals that came before them. There was not just a evolution, that was completely revolutionary. And now we're finding ourselves probably not at that stage yet where it's a revolution, but it's definitely an evolution
Yeah.
of technology. And as speaking as somebody that's a little bit older now, still in tech, is change is uncomfortable. I think what you're saying is, uh, oh, I'll soften that. It's, yeah, you need to get on to the train. You need to feel confident and secure, maybe a little bit less anxious with AI, because of this version of it is definitely going to enable you to focus on uh, more high valued parts of your job. In 5 or 10 years, I think that is going to change. AI will have and is having an impact in certain industries. But to keep it focused on what we're talking about, Microsoft Copilot as an AI tool or as an assistant, having that relationship, investing that time is going to see productivity gains for you as a computer user.
Yeah, definitely. It's a better way of interfacing with the computer and should help you be more efficient and work better. It shouldn't really be viewed through the lens of, is this going to replace me? It should be viewed through, how is this going to help me do my job better?
I mean, we maybe touched upon it just now, but the evolution of uh, AI or Copilot in the next 2 or 3 years, and I know we don't work for Microsoft. What do you see as possibly some of the evolutionary part of Copilot from where it is now, to a couple of years' time?
So I think Copilot will bring in some of the functionality of other AI tools. So, for example, there are a lot of AI tools, and some of them are going in different directions. There are AI tools available that you can talk directly to and get a response from. There are video generative AIs that will generate you realistic looking videos. Um, AI tools that are designed to pull together data from multiple third parties, via APIs or links or agents or any of these sorts of things. So Copilot is continually being updated and constantly expanding its capabilities. So these things already exist in isolation, and I can see Copilot pulling these all together, and it will be the central AI tool for any of these sorts of things, whether that's communication or video or pulling data from other sources. It's just going to keep adding in these things until it can do everything.
And I think, as you said, and you've highlighted there, we don't quite know what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. But from a Microsoft Copilot perspective, I think you're in safer hands possibly than other AI tools. You kind of go back to that old feeling that you either love Microsoft or you don't. And that's probably some of the reality still. But the familiarity of the applications, as other applications have evolved with Microsoft, Outlook is far different from what it is now. It's like Outlook is different to what it was 5 or 10 years ago, but there's aspects of it as it's evolved that's familiar, so it's kind of helping you on that change process. And Copilot will be the same as it evolves. It's going to be familiar as it is now 2 to 3 years' time. But as you've said, with a lot more power and a lot more functionality, but not at the cost of relearning it. If you get into it now, it's going to be familiar in 2 to 3 years' time.
Yeah, it'll be a natural evolution. And I can't see it going anywhere. Like, there have been some Microsoft technologies in the past that they've come out with, and a couple of years later, it's dead because nobody's interested in it. I think the way the world's going and the adoption of Copilot already, I don't think this is going anywhere. And I think it will only be improved and updated and make our lives easier.
Yeah, I agree. I think just to wrap this up, Doug, if you were an organization thinking about uh, Microsoft Copilot and AI, what would you say to them to help them make that jump into the AI Microsoft Copilot world?
I think I would say, don't be scared of AI.
Okay.
It's easy to use. It's easy to adopt. Um, of course, what we've said about security needs to be taken into consideration. Make sure your security is in a good place first. But if you're confident in your security and you want to start using Copilot, then it's very easy to do. AI is, I find it enjoyable to use. It helps me in my day to day. So users should be excited about it. Businesses should be excited to implement this sort of thing and just have fun with it.
That's interesting. And if I can add that a fourth point, I think that there is definitely real value to adopting this technology. This isn't like other technologies in the past that maybe haven't had that traction, or uh, the people seeing that return on investment. But this is definitely a technology used the right way. You will see that return on investment to each individual that uses it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks, Doug. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate us talking about Microsoft Copilot and the world of AI. Hopefully, you've enjoyed us talking about Microsoft Copilot, bringing that to life, some of the real benefits of using that technology, some of the pitfalls to avoid, and some of those experience and stories that we've hopefully shared with you about other organizations using Copilot. Until the next time on IQ Bridge, thank you very much.